Cade Cracas is with us, our beat reporter who covers the Guardians, and want to do a couple of segments with Cade. First of all, great win over Detroit last night. Again, 4-3 your final. Bazana, 2-run home run, his second of the year. Rocchio and Angel Martinez really heating up, partner.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the youth of this team, I think that's what makes it so exciting. These aren't just veterans heating up or guys who've been in the league for a couple of years. Bruce, these are guys who are in either their first, second, or third years who are going out there and looking like those veterans and those experienced players. That comes from the top down, though. It doesn't come just out of nowhere. We're seeing some great leadership from Jose Ramirez and the coaching staff to put these guys in situations where they can succeed, and we've seen it time and time again. And of the bunch, I think obviously Angel Martinez has taken the headlines because he's having such a remarkable year so far. But Travis Bazana, I mean, he's just been such a fun player to watch on the base paths, at the plate. I mean, he just looks so well-rounded out there.
What do you think the ceiling is for some of these guys? And the three that I mentioned, Bazana, Martinez, Rocchio, but let's include Manzardo.
You know, I'm going to look at Angel Martinez first, and I think it's the obvious one of the bunch. I think you could see him like a Jose Ramirez. Like, I think the way that he plays at the plate, his switch-hitting ability is so consistent on both ends. Like, I did a deep dive into his stats a couple of days ago on Cleveland Guardians and SI, talking about how his numbers from both sides of the plate are really similar. Like, he's not losing power. He's not losing that general consistency. He's keeping a good eye. And having that sort of balance is what Jose Ramirez had throughout the middle part of his career. And I know he started a little bit slower and took a couple more years to really get going. But Angel Martinez has that ceiling of a Jose Ramirez type. And I'm not going to say he's going to get to that point.
Right.
That's a very high, lofty goal.
Well said by you. Yeah, that's interesting.
But that's where he could end up being.
He certainly has a lot of potential. Go on with the other three.
Yeah, I think you look at Travis Bazana, I think you just see a guy who, I don't want to speak to his ceiling because I feel like that's just such an unknown right now, but I want to say his floor is really high. Like, his floor to me is about a 275 batting average guy. And I know that guys don't really look at batting average anymore as much as they do the other things behind the scenes.
I think the average in the majors is like 240 this year.
Yeah. I think we're sitting at a Travis Bazana floor of being like 275. I think he's going to be a very well-rounded, everyday starter at the big league level. And I think, though, that his ceiling, though, he could be end up being like a multi-time all-star. I think he's got all the capabilities in the world to be whatever. You know, he's so young, 23 years old, fast track to the big leagues, and he comes in, breakneck defense, incredible eye at the plate, flashing this power from time to time. I saw a funny
speed on the base pass.
Yeah, speed on the base pass. I mean, he's got a bunch of steals as well. I saw a funny clip of Jose Ramirez talking to him about hitting the weight room. The day before in that Tigers opener on Monday, he had a home run shot that nearly went yard. It went out out into the warning track, right up against the wall. It was caught. And then the day later, he goes out there and smacks one the distance. And so he's someone who's just adapting and growing game by game that I feel like you just don't really know where he can get to.
Right. Manzardo and Rocchio.
Yeah, Manzardo and Rocchio are the two interesting ones. And the reason why I say interesting is because we don't know if this is prolonged consistency or just flashes. And the reason why I say that is because guys like Angel Martinez and Travis Bazana, they're so young to that this is all we've really seen so far from them. But Rocchio and Manzardo, because we've seen them for a couple of campaigns now, we saw Rocchio flash greatness in his first, I think, year or two. And then he got optioned last year at some point. Came back and was still a bit rocky, but then Rocktober happened. And that's when they started coining him as someone who shows up in the big moments. And this year, with runners in scoring position, he looks exceptional. I think for him, it's just finding a groove and staying on top of that. A guy like Manzardo, I don't know yet. And the reason why I say I don't know yet is because we haven't seen much from him. Last year was an odd one where he was good, but he actually, at the end of the campaign, came out and said he didn't realize how long the baseball season was, and that it was taxing on him. And so I'm seeing that to start the year, he's not really where he was last year to start, and now he's slowly getting into a curve. So my question is, and this is my question to just the universe, is this Kyle Manzardo slowing down at the beginning of the year to allow himself to be better at the end of the year? I think that might be the question there, which makes me consider, hey, we got to wait a year or two before we discuss where he's going to be at.
Isn't it interesting? I haven't even brought up DeLauder yet.
That's the crazy part. That is the crazy part.
He's so beautiful. What do you hear on Cephas and Valero?
Yeah, Cephas and Valero are two guys that are in an odd spot. And so is that entire AAA roster. And the reason why that's the case is because every single player on that AAA roster could be a big leaguer. Bruce, I mean, you look at Juan Brito, he was up this year. Cooper Engel, who's really getting a lot of attention right now for his above 1.2 OPS. I mean, he's just slugging, getting on base, hitting, everything. And then you look at guys like you just mentioned, Kafis and Valera, and Watson's in the mix as well down there. Petey Halpin's a guy who now's in the major leagues, but he was doing really well in AAA. I think that what we're hearing from all of those guys is a bunch, because it's all kind of one big conversation, is that when the time comes, they'll be up. But right now, there's not a spot for him in the big leagues.
And, of course, the pitching has really been pretty consistent from the beginning. Messick last night, Cade Smith, little rocky in the ninth. Anybody got the job done, got out of the jam, recorded his 15th save, for goodness sakes. Like I mentioned to you the last time I had you on the show, it's amazing to me that we lose arguably the best closer in the business in Class A, and every fantasy baseball magazine, every single one of them, had Smith one of the top 3 closers in the majors going into this season.
Yeah, it's because he's got such a great four-seamer. I mean, it's topping out at like 99 miles per hour this year. I know we've seen Class A. I mean, he was hitting 100 at times. And the thing is that when you have a guy that's going from the control and the dominance that Class A had to a guy like Smith, who was just the setup to him. Remember, he was just a perfect setup option. And immediately he comes in and picks up where he left off as that closer spot. And he's doing it with kind of a similar pitch mix, kind of, but kind of not, because that four-seamer that Clase relied on a ton, like his fastball was just hardy. I mean, that was blowing by guys. Smith kind of jumped into this role to start the year and wanted to be a bit more multidimensional. And while that's fine in the setup or like a late-game relief role, in that closer role, I mean, you just got to throw heat. And now that he's finally getting back to that and just taking down batters, we're seeing why a lot of those magazines and a lot of those analysts all offseason said Cade Smith is the next big thing, and so far he's doing it.
Right. Messick, Gavin Williams, Cantillo, even Ciccone has looked a lot better. And see if you agree with this. Bybee's statistics are deceiving because he's been pitching pretty consistently of late.
100%. And that's exactly why Stephen Vogt in a press conference last week said that pitching statistics are so interesting. And that's why pitching records are such a thing that they don't look at. Because you look at him, he's 0-6 to start the year. In nearly all of those losses, he's gotten like 1 or 2 runs from his run support. And that just shows that like pitchers are playing a completely different game. And that's what Tanner Bybee says. He says that. We're playing a completely different game. We have to go out there and just do us. We can't worry about the bats. We can't worry about anything else other than what we're doing on the mound. Yes, he has a 4.15 ERA. Yes, he's got a 1.35 whip, but those numbers aren't showing, like you just mentioned, how dominant he's been. He's been a great, great starter to start the year. And I think that if his ERA was a bit further down and down the threes, people would be having a completely different conversation about him.
And some pitchers don't get the support from their offense. It's bad luck.
Yeah.
And he's been a tough luck pitcher in that regard, too. All right, more with Cade Cracas when we return just a moment. Bonus time with Drennan, brought to you by FanDuel. Couple other notes about our Guardians as they will conclude the series with Detroit today and tomorrow. But at 28-22, 15-10 at home, 7-5. Most importantly in the Central Division, got to win the games in your Central Division, and the team has won 4 in a row.
Yeah, I mean you have to, and it's going to be important because we talked about it in the Daily Guards this week, but we saw what happened at the end of last year. 15.5 game comeback. And you talk about early season success and early season momentum being built. That sets you up long term to not have those types of collapses and those types of having to come back from.
Yeah.
So if Cleveland's able to put themselves in a situation here where they win this series against Detroit, I know that Minnesota series is one we want to forget, but then go on the road here and get ready for some really tough series moving forward. I mean, you have to win these.
I saw a piece, and I want to throw this out at Cade. The most disappointing team so far in the majors. Who would you say? I've got a list.
I mean, I think an obvious answer is the Tigers. Yep. I mean, I think you can't not say the Tigers.
Top of the list.
Are the Mets in there too, potentially? Are the Mets?
Mets are in there.
Okay.
Tigers, through July 8th last season, they were 59-34. That was the best record in the major leagues. And then after that, they went 28-41. Now, in fairness, they don't have Skubal.
Yeah.
And I don't know, do you hear when he's going to return?
The first things that came out were about a couple of months, and now some recent talks have seemingly made it a little bit less than that.
Yeah,
because they're trying. it's always the weird thing, Bruce, where like pitchers are like, all right, I'm going to go to this country and try out this surgery. I'm going to go to this specific doctor who specifies in this, and we're going to do a test surgery. Like we see it almost every year now. And so I think there are some rumblings that Skubal's going to be experiencing something like that.
You mentioned the Mets, and with their payroll especially. Now, in fairness to them, just like with Detroit not having Skubal, they don't have Lindor. But they are showing slight signs of coming out. Bichette has heated up this past week. Soto, he was hurt for a little bit, but he's back now. But the problem is they're in the same division with Atlanta, who's 33-16, sporting one of the best records in the major leagues, as I predicted, if you recall, when I made my preseason. And obviously Philadelphia's scorching hot right now, and they're on the upswing. Let me throw out a few more. How about Toronto?
That makes sense. They're a weird team. They're a super weird team, Bruce. And because, just last year they're in the World Series, and this year they're just starting off incredibly slow. And maybe it is like that World Series hangover, like everyone talks about. Guys, teams who get there, they think they're going to come out next season and be able to do just that again. They just haven't so far.
Yeah. And Yasavich was started the season hurt. Now he's back. Of course, Bieber, he's been hurt the whole way. And Boston's another one. Of course, they cleaned house by firing Cora and most of their coaching staff, but what a huge disappointment. And I just saw this week that they've lost Story now indefinitely because he's hurt badly. How about Baltimore? Would you put them in that category too?
I think I would, just because they haven't lived up to expectations. We've seen Pete Alonso, they're big time signing. We thought he was going to be, exceptional in Baltimore, and
he's not protected though, except for the kid Basallo.
Yeah, like he's someone who's not having a bad year, but not having a good year. Like he's got 20 extra base hits, Alonso does, but he's only batting .222, and he's not getting on base often. And then, like you mentioned as well, like they've got a weird thing right now where they've got Basallo, but they also have Adley Rutschman. And
they're DHing Basallo a lot.
I know, so it's like, I think if you're Baltimore, you got to deal one of those two. You got a lot of value in both of them,
because
and I think it's Rutschman.
Basallo's
100%. But I think with Rutschman, like he's shown that he's got what it takes.
Come deadline time, it'll be very fascinating with some of these teams. Seattle's another one, even though they're fortunate they're in that division. Remember, there's only 3 teams above 500 in the American League: Tampa Bay, New York, and us. That's it. But I think Seattle, because they're in that division, is still very much alive. But I think you'd have to put them in this category.
I'd agree with you. And I think it comes down to one guy, Cal Raleigh. I mean, he's just having a really strugglesome start. Recently. Really strugglesome start to the year. He's batting 161, 243 OB on base percentage, 317 slugging. I mean, for a guy who last year was that home run hitter that everyone strived to be, I mean, he has fallen flat.
Yeah. Houston, what do you say? Now, their pitching staff is totally depleted, granted. But boy, you could make an argument for them as the top 2.
Oh,
the most disappointing.
I agree with you, but I think I've told you this before, is I think Houston's a surefire playoff team that lights it up down the stretch of the year. And the reason why I say
they're fortunate they're in that division again.
They've got some fun hitters. And Alvarez right now, 11 doubles, 15 home runs.
Yeah.
Christian Walker's got 10 doubles, 11 home runs. They've got some really good bats, Bruce.
Philly was in this category, but we mentioned that they're scorching hot right now. So who's to say that they can't get themselves back in playoff contention? Biggest surprises so far, to me, it's the White Sox.
Oh, no doubt. And even Murakami. I mean, he has been remarkable. And the funny thing is all offseason, every team in the league was like, no, we're not going to sign Murakami. We're not interested in him. Like, we don't think his game's going to translate to Major League Baseball. Has he struck out a ton? Yeah. Has he hit the ball really well, though? Yeah. So I think he's someone who's made such a difference for the White Sox. I'm curious to see how they finish the year. I think that's the thing right now, Bruce, because are they a team right now who starts hot and falls off, or are they going to be in that number 2 spot all year? Right.